In the quiet residential neighborhood of Newton, a suburb of Boston, stood a New England colonial-style home. The three-bedroom house with its white exterior walls accented by deep green shutters was Linda Wilson's ideal home, found through her experience as a real estate agent. Within walking distance were a Whole Foods market and Starbucks, and on weekends, neighborhood ladies would gather casually for coffee and conversation in this peaceful community. As May transitioned from spring to early summer, the sweet fragrance of lilacs planted in the garden wafted on the fresh green breeze. Beyond the impeccably maintained lawn that belied its 10 years, Linda had her cherished small vegetable garden. It had become a weekend custom for neighborhood ladies to stop by and chat with Linda as she tended to her garden. "I want to feed organic vegetables to the baby who's on the way," Linda would say, her profile glowing like a young girl's as she worked in her garden. With shoulder-length brown hair tied back and an air of intelligence about her, she was a career woman with top sales records at a high-end Boston real estate company. Her passion for work and sincere personality earned her clients deep trust, so much so that she was still handling important deals even during her pregnancy. Michael, her husband whom she met at an Episcopal church, was Linda's ideal man. Working as a middle manager at an IT startup, he maintained a casual startup vibe while being polite and considerate, well regarded by neighbors. From before their marriage, he had clearly supported Linda's career, and that hadn't changed after they wed. "They're truly an ideal couple," people would often say, and Linda's heart would fill with happiness each time. She had a husband who understood her desire to continue her career after marriage. They attended church together on holidays, and shared their dreams for the future. Upstairs, an adorable nursery painted in pastel yellow was already prepared. As the eagerly anticipated due date approached, Michael's behavior began to change subtly. Increased overtime, frequent weekend work, and occasionally, the scent of unfamiliar perfume on his clothes. However, Linda, focused on her upcoming delivery, had no spare attention for such minor changes. After a difficult delivery, their precious daughter Emma was born. The tiny life became an irreplaceable treasure for both parents. In the clean hospital room at Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center, Linda felt perfect happiness as she gazed at her child. Her husband remained gentle and attentive after the birth. Congratulatory messages arrived from her family in Florida, and neighbors brought homemade casseroles. Everything was wrapped in warmth. However, that happiness was fragile and fleeting, like the last lilacs blooming at the end of May. On a peaceful May afternoon, a taxi departed from Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center, heading slowly toward Boston's suburbs. In the front passenger seat sat a paper bag filled with postpartum care items prepared by the nurses, while Linda cradled newborn Emma in the back seat. "The baby looks just like you," said the taxi driver, who appeared to be Haitian, offering a gentle smile through the rearview mirror. "I'm a father of 3, but nothing is more lovely than a newborn baby." Emma slept peacefully, wrapped in a white blanket. Despite the difficult delivery, she looked surprisingly healthy. Linda thought her tiny lips occasionally moving looked like an angel smiling. "Thank you," Linda smiled gently. "She's a girl." Glancing at her smartphone screen, she noticed the battery was at 5%. She had forgotten to charge it in the post-delivery rush. I should send Michael a message before we arrive, she thought, beginning to type. We'll be home soon. Emma's been sleeping the whole time. Love you. The moment she pressed send, the screen went dark. Well, we'll be home soon anyway, Linda thought dismissively, turning her attention back to her daughter's sleeping face. As the taxi turned onto Beacon Street and entered the familiar tree-lined road, she noticed something was wrong. Multiple emergency vehicles were parked in the usually quiet residential street. 3 police cars and a fire truck. Yellow tape was strung up, and uniformed police officers were bustling about. Neighbors had gathered, talking excitedly. I wonder what's happening. As the taxi drew closer, Linda's heartbeat quickened. The police vehicles were undeniably gathered in front of her house. The white colonial-style house was completely surrounded by yellow tape. Is this all right here? The driver asked anxiously. Yes, thank you. Linda carefully got out while holding the baby. Despite the early summer weather, a spine-chilling anxiety enveloped her entire body. A police officer quickly approached Linda. He appeared to be a veteran officer, with a stern expression that somehow held a trace of kindness. Ma'am, you can't enter the house right now. At those words, Linda's mind went blank. Emma stirred slightly in her arms. Why not? Her voice, trying desperately to maintain composure, trembled slightly. The police officer paused for a moment and sighed deeply. We received a report of a gas leak and are currently investigating. His explanation seemed somehow evasive. Linda instinctively knew this wasn't the whole story. My husband. Where is my husband? The police officer's expression momentarily tensed. I'm sorry. We're currently trying to contact relevant parties. Just then, Emma suddenly began to cry. Her tiny body trembled, and her thin cry echoed through the silent street. Mrs. Johnson, a neighbor, rushed over. Linda, come this way, she offered what appeared to be a handmade soft blanket. The baby looks cold. Amidst the confusion, Linda followed Mrs. Johnson's guidance. Mrs. Johnson's living room was elegantly furnished with antiques, bathed in spring sunlight. Photos, presumably from her younger days, adorned the walls, and pictures of grandchildren lined the mantelpiece. She efficiently created a space for Linda and Emma. Shall I warm some milk? Mrs. Johnson called from the kitchen. For when the baby wakes up. Before Linda could answer, a young police officer entered the room. Ma'am, may I speak with you? The officer's nameplate read, Sarah Murphy. She conveyed a motherly warmth within her professional demeanor. First, let me explain the situation, Officer Murphy began, opening her notebook. Around 1 p.m. today, we received a report of a young woman breaking into your home. The living room clock quietly showed 3 o'clock. Emma slept peacefully, wrapped in the soft blanket Mrs. Johnson had provided. The report came from Mrs. Brown across the street. She witnessed an unknown young woman entering your house. After hearing sounds of objects being thrown and smelling gas, she immediately contacted the police. Linda pictured Mrs. Brown, who often worked in her garden. She was an active member of the neighborhood watch, always vigilant about community safety. Initial investigation has confirmed the following points, Officer Murphy continued, carefully explaining each detail. First, the kitchen window was broken. The gas stove appears to have been deliberately damaged. There's also significant damage to indoor furniture. Linda felt a constricting pain in her chest. The perfect life she had believed in until yesterday was suddenly crumbling. Also, your husband's car was found in the home's parking space. Michael had said he was leaving early for an important meeting this morning. His phone? Linda asked in a hoarse voice. It was left in the car. There are multiple missed calls and unread messages. Just then, Emma began to cry softly. As Linda picked her up, Mrs. Johnson appeared with the warmed milk. Linda, let's take a break, she said gently. The police can wait that long, can't they? Officer Murphy nodded understandingly. Of course. The baby's care comes first. After Emma finished feeding and fell back asleep, another police officer entered the room with new information. We've received new testimony. Multiple witness accounts match regarding the characteristics of the suspected woman. Linda found herself unconsciously listening. Late 20s, about 5 feet 5 inches, wearing a suit. Shoulder-length black hair, carrying a luxury brand bag. At that moment, a memory flashed in Linda's mind. A photo from a company party posted on Michael's social media. An unfamiliar woman in that photo. Feeling her extremities grow cold, Linda took out her smartphone. The battery was completely dead, but Mrs. Johnson lent her a charger. When the screen lit up, she first opened Michael's social media account. While he didn't post much, the company's official account had many event photos posted. There she was, a young woman smiling next to Michael. Dressed sophisticatedly with an intelligent air about her. Her name was tagged in the post. Caitlin Morrison. Do you know this woman? Officer Murphy quietly asked. The name struck a chord. It was a name Michael had been mentioning frequently lately. He had said she was a talented subordinate. Memories began fitting together like puzzle pieces. Michael's increased overtime. Frequent weekend work. The unfamiliar perfume scent on his clothes. His slight tension when checking his phone. And that somewhat strained smile after learning of the pregnancy. Officer Murphy began speaking carefully, choosing her words. Actually, we've received some interesting information from a hospital nurse. Linda caught her breath. During her 3 days at Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center, she now recalled seeing a familiar nurse, one who had been speaking intimately with the woman from Michael's company photos. That nurse appears to be Caitlin Morrison's close friend. She may have leaked your discharge date and time in advance. Outside the window, police sirens still faintly echoed. The early summer sunlight remained bright, with shadows of street trees swaying. However, dark premonitions swirled in Linda's heart. Watching Emma sleep, Linda continued her internal questioning. Why had a strange woman broken into her house? Why was Michael's car in the parking lot? And above all, had their happy days together been real? The doorbell rang, and they heard someone hurriedly entering the house. Linda's heart raced. She already knew who it was. Michael's panicked voice came from downstairs. "Linda. Where's Linda?" His voice carried a frantic quality she had never heard before. And mixed within that chaos was something unmistakably like guilt. His footsteps climbing Mrs. Johnson's stairs matched Linda's heartbeat. When Michael entered the room, the air seemed to freeze. His usually neat dress shirt was wrinkled, his tie askew. His face was pale, his eyes bloodshot. The composed man she knew was gone, replaced by someone in complete disarray. "Linda." Michael's voice trembled. "Emma, is Emma all right?" Seeing the sleeping Emma, his shoulders slumped. At that moment, he covered his face with both hands and collapsed where he stood. "I'll tell you everything," he said in a strained voice. "I can't hide it anymore." Officer Murphy quietly stood up. "Then we'll step out for a moment." But Linda shook her head. "No, please stay." Her voice was surprisingly calm, even to herself. Emma stirred slightly in her arms. The baby's warmth was her only support now. Michael heaved a deep sigh, as if unloading a burden he had carried for years. "For 2 years." He began, staring at the floor. "I've been involved with Caitlin." The room's atmosphere grew heavier. "She was my subordinate. Working overtime together on projects." Michael's voice broke. "At first, I thought it was just a mistake. But the relationship continued. And then, she became pregnant." Linda's body trembled slightly at those words. Michael continued. "When I learned of your pregnancy, I made a decision. To end everything. I told Caitlin clearly that we couldn't continue our relationship. But that was just the beginning of a new tragedy." Persistent messages began arriving on Michael's phone. "What about our baby? This child needs a father." At work, casual encounters increased. Chance meetings in the elevator. Being alone together in meeting rooms. Brief conversations by the coffee maker. Then the social media harassment began. Michael's voice shook. "She started leaving comments on your photos. Not direct harassment, but suggestive emojis and ominous words." Linda silently opened her smartphone. Indeed, there were comments from unknown accounts on her posts, especially on the pregnancy announcement. Caitlin became increasingly desperate, Michael continued. "Last week, she told me she had miscarried." The room's atmosphere grew even heavier. But that was a lie. She was still in early pregnancy. And Michael's voice caught. "She had a friend at the hospital. She learned your discharge date." All the pieces were now connecting. "This morning, I received a final message from her." Michael pulled out another phone from his pocket, presumably his work phone. "If I can't be happy, neither can you." "I canceled the meeting and rushed home but..." Michael's voice trembled. She had already broken in, spread gas, and destroyed furniture. When I tried to stop her. Just then, there was a sound from downstairs. Everyone held their breath. Michael Wilson, a young woman's voice rang out. "After ruining my life, you're hiding up here." Caitlin appeared in the room. She wore a luxury brand suit, but her appearance was miserably disheveled. Her makeup was smeared, her eyes held a maniacal gleam. "Your perfect little family game ends here," she said in a hoarse voice. "I'm going to end it all." Caitlin's hands shook. Tears streamed from her eyes. I deserved to be happy too." With those words, she was restrained. When silence returned to the room, only Emma's crying could be heard. Linda still held Emma with trembling hands. The baby's soft breathing gradually began to calm. Michael looked hesitantly at Linda. His eyes showed colors of regret and penitence. But Linda just silently continued gazing at the baby. The perfect marriage life she thought she had. The man she believed was an ideal husband. Everything crumbled in an instant. However, the weight of the small life sleeping in her arms gave her new strength. Mrs. Johnson gently placed her hand on Linda's shoulder. That warmth was now her greatest comfort. 1 year later, in May, morning light streamed into the living room of a small apartment facing Cold Spring Park. The leaves of potted plants by the window created gentle dappled shadows. "Good morning, Emma." Linda lifted her daughter, who had just started toddling. At 1 year old, Emma had grown into a girl with large eyes just like her mother's and a friendly smile. Emma's first word was, "Mama." Linda still vividly remembered that moment. Her parents, who had rushed from Florida, were also present for that memorable occasion. A pleasant aroma wafted from the coffee maker in the kitchen. She had replaced the one from their previous house with a new one perfectly sized for this compact kitchen. But the changes weren't just in appliances. After the incident, Caitlin Morrison's trial began. A psychiatric evaluation revealed she had been under severe stress. However, it was also clear that the crime was premeditated. Eventually, she received a 3-year suspended sentence. Additionally, she was ordered to undergo mandatory counseling and relocate outside Massachusetts. During the trial, it was revealed that she had miscarried early in her pregnancy. When Linda learned this fact, she was struck by complex emotions. Amidst mixed feelings of hatred and sympathy, she made one decision. "I can't forgive, but I won't continue to hate." This was also for Emma's sake. Michael completely lost his credibility at work. He was demoted and ultimately forced to change companies. He pays child support reliably. The divorce proceeded smoothly, and regular visits with Emma are now arranged through lawyers. "Our marriage is over, but you're still Emma's father." When Linda told him this, Michael could only nod with a choked voice. Changes also appeared in relationships with those around her. Mrs. Johnson still brings homemade casseroles once a week. Her grandchildren often visit as playmates for Emma. Linda maintains connections with the nurses from Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center through a parenting circle. Work has gradually gotten back on track. Starting with 3 days a week part-time, she's now returned to real estate work full-time. With her parents taking turns helping out, she's slowly getting used to balancing work and childcare. This Sunday is your baptism at church. Linda spoke softly while settling Emma into her high chair. The baptism at the Episcopal Church would be a celebration for the entire community. The preparations were already complete. On the kitchen counter lay invitations for Emma's first birthday party. A small celebration with neighborhood children and friends from the parenting circle. Simple, but sure to be a warm gathering. "Good morning, Linda." The doorbell rang, and Thomas Singleton's voice could be heard. He was a colleague from the real estate company, and they had gradually grown closer recently. His gentle demeanor and sincere personality had even won Emma over. But it was still too early for romance. Taking things one step at a time was just fine. While preparing breakfast, Linda looked out the window. It was May, the season of fresh greenery and the scent of lilacs. This time last year, her life had been thrown into turmoil. But now, she was seeing a different landscape. As a mother, as a woman, and as a strong individual. Emma laughed in the sunlight. Her innocent smile warmed Linda's heart. Having lost her perfect family, she had found a new kind of happiness. It was a future that, despite its scars, was filled with genuine hope. "Well, Emma, let's make today another wonderful day." In the morning light, a new day for mother and daughter quietly began.